Hello, Miles and Coffee. This is Beverly of Miles and Coffee. I'd like to say hi to my milers, and you definitely want to get your ink pen ready because today, as you can see, I have a very special guest, and she is a subscriber. And hot off the press, she's giving you very, very good information about how she became a Mexican resident before moving here. So I would like to present to you my follower and friend, Shirley. Hi,
Everyone, hello.
Shirley.
Glad
Excellent.
to be here.
So I sent you a list of questions, and I know that you are very, very timely. Do you have your questions with you?
I have them. I typed them up and wrote out answers. I'm all ready.
You are absolutely ready. Okay, so everyone, if you see her look down, please forgive her. She's not being rude, but she might be checking her answers. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my coffee, so I am ready. Are you ready, Shirley?
I am ready.
Excellent. You're going to help a lot of people today. This is like the newest trending topic about how to get your residency. And as you can see in the description of this video, this is getting your residency, why you should get your residency before you moved here. So where are you from, Shirley?
I am from Maryland on the East Coast of the US, United States. Been here,
Okay.
been here all my life. Been
all your life.
Yep, on the East Coast all my life.
Excellent. And so if you, it will be interesting to see where you end up later in Mexico. How long have you followed Miles and Coffee?
Oh, okay. So I think it's been between like 9 and 11 months because I saw you on Picky Girl Travels the World when she interviewed you. That was when you were talking about being the teacher and getting the TEFL. And I was like, oh, she reminds me of my mother. I was like, it was like your mannerisms. And I said, oh, well, let me look into that. She's in Mexico and she's teaching. I need to follow her. So that's when I started following your channel.
Well, thank you for being a follower. And it sounds like you have taken some of the recommendations and followed through. So you're going to help a lot of people. Where did you actually start this process of applying for your residence visa?
Well, I'm in Maryland, so when I started looking online, I just Googled Mexican consulate near me. The only ones that came up were 3 of them. One was in Delaware, one was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and then the one in DC. Maryland doesn't actually have one. So the closest was DC, but I thought because it was DC that it would be harder to get an appointment. So I said, well, let me start in Philadelphia. So I tried to go to the Philadelphia consulate. So I emailed them and they said, oh, well, you have to live within a certain distance from the consulate. So if you're like on the outskirts of Pennsylvania, which I'm in Maryland, so I could cross the border and go into Pennsylvania, but it would probably be a couple of hours to get to Philadelphia. But I was thinking, well, I'm in Maryland, I'm right next to Pennsylvania. I thought I could go there, but they said, no, they only allow a certain distance from the consulate out for people that either live in Pennsylvania or are either like right across the border. Like you can't be like 4 hours away. So they said, well, basically you can't come to this location. You have to find one closer to you. So, and that's what I wanted to let people know right off the bat. You can cross borders or cross state lines, which is what I ended up doing because I'm in Maryland. So I had to go into DC to get to the consulate. But if you're in another state, you might be able to go to a state that's next to you. You can drive over the border if it's a consulate that the requirements are easier, and we'll get into that as we go along. But I started online looking up the nearest consulate to me and going from there.
This is excellent because followers that follow me know that this is different from the way I did it. So you're giving us firsthand information from your personal experience. And I want to ask you, Shirley, did you use an immigration advisor?
I did, but I know, I guess it's kind of hard to tell people that because some of them assume if you're I assume we're mostly speaking to US citizens. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the US, you don't want to try to hire an advisor who is located in Mexico before you finish the first part of the process. In order to do a residency visa, either permanent or temporary in Mexico, it's basically a two-step process. The first part, I call it part one. You have to start back in your home country, which means the US, or if you're in Canada, it means Canada. So you can't just get up, get a flight and fly to Mexico and try to do it there. You have to do
I'm not being rude, Shirley. Hola, my cleaner has come in, so that's why I'm waving. So okay. I had told Shirley beforehand and she's here. So please continue. But hola, Angelica, ¿cómo estás? Bien, gracias. Okay, thank you.
When she's done, can you send her over here to the US?
Yeah, you know, she will travel. She's beautiful. And you won't even hear her. Once I speak, you won't even hear her. She's excellent. We'll talk. That's another video. Okay, so please continue because you used an immigration advisor. And yes. How does that work?
Okay, so I only use the immigration advisor for the part two of the process, which happens when you land in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So I did the US side first. I had to do that on my own. It's not difficult. You basically just go to the consulate and take your paperwork, but we'll get into the documentation. But I did use an immigration advisor on the Mexico side because that was logical to use that. I don't think advisors in Mexico can help you when you're in the US and you're doing this, the first part, because every consulate in the whole 50 states of the US is different and they require different things. So they can't help you because they're not here in the US. But once you get in Mexico, they're the first line basically that you should go to because they're very helpful, extremely helpful.
Extremely helpful. And so that is a good thing to know that you're on your own in the United States for the consulate, but once you start the Mexican process, you do need an advisor. Excellent. So now, in which state in Mexico did you visit? Which immigration did you visit?
I went to the Jalisco consulate. Well, it's not Jalisco is the state. Mm-hmm. Puerto Vallarta is the city. So she made the appointment, my advisor made the appointment for me in the Puerto Vallarta immigration office. So it was in the state of Jalisco. When I flew there, the airport is in Puerto Vallarta. So I flew into Puerto Vallarta, but my hotel was about 25, 30 minutes away in the next city, basically, which was in Nayarit, in the state of Nayarit, the city of Nuevo Vallarta. So they're kind of next to each other. So when I got a ride, it was from my bed and breakfast to the Puerto Vallarta immigration office. It was about 25, 30 something minutes, depending on traffic. Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. So it sounds like you really did your planning for this process, Shirley.
Yeah, well, when I started, before I even got to the point here in the US of contacting the DC consulate, I was looking on Facebook and going to different pages and reading about other people's experience with getting their temporary visa. So I was reading so many conflicting reports because some people did it like 10 years ago, and they're like posting on pages recently for people asking, what's the process? And it's like, well, you did it 10 years ago. Nothing you did 10 years ago is going to apply to someone who's going to do this in the next 60 days.
Thank you.
Whatever the process was, it's irrelevant. So when you're seeing comments on Facebook, you really have to either message those people or ask them, did you get yours recently? And someone will say, oh no, it was 5 years ago. It's like, well, their information might be irrelevant because Mexico changes, procedures change, processes change very quickly. They can change from day to day.
From day to day.
Which going back,
that is such good advice that, you know, even for me, when people try to pin me to a specific and I tell them you need a specialist or an advisor because things are constantly changing, especially in 2022. And so you have to know up to minute information. That's why you always hear me say, please do your research. So that is good advice that you just said, that if be careful what you read on social media. Right.
And I the other thing I noticed was when I started reading about these immigration facilitators, they're not attorneys. So you don't have to hire an attorney in Mexico to help you get your residency. Unless you like paying money, that's okay. That's okay. Some people want to pay more money, but it's not
true.
Necessary. So
but it's not necessary.
Right. So those, like the immigration advisors, they live in Mexico. They know the area. They're locals. They speak the language. They know cultural standards. So like me being an outsider, I wouldn't know if I walked into a immigration office what the standard protocol is for addressing the agents. You know, these people are local residents. They have relationship with the immigration office. They the employees, and that's really helpful to people like me who are basically on the outside trying to get in.
So when you have an advisor, that advisor has inside contacts that they are dealing with from day to day. And that's in your favor, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they have relationship. They have relationship with certain immigration agents that might be there. And now when I got there, this is kind of a side note as far as the relationship is, there were other immigration advisors helping other groups of people. And you could tell who the advisor was because they were usually walking around with a briefcase and they had a lot of folders for all of their clients, just like mine did. And they would go to the immigration door, the door of the immigration office, and the person who was kind of having people sign in and just kind of controlling the flow of people, that gentleman, you know, he was talking to these immigration facilitators. You know, he would open the door and they would have a conversation for like 5 or 6 minutes. So that's relationship.
Yes.
The agents inside know these advisors. The people who work there know the advisors.
Yes.
They know that it's their business. It's their business. They're bringing people to Mexico to become residents, which is helping the immigration office, and it's also helping the immigration advisor because it's their business. And once they help you, like me, my lady was awesome. So on Facebook, posting in every group I can, saying, here, use this lady, here's her email, here's her phone number, and we're going to put that information in Beverly's video. We're going to have that for you because she was awesome. Now, she spoke some English, understood enough. Like if you emailed her, I spoke with her via email several times, and she was very reassuring, you know, telling me what the steps are, what I needed before I even basically hired her. I'm talking to her via email, and I introduced myself via email to her. You know, I explained my situation. I'm single. I don't have a husband to bring with me. I don't have dependents. So every person's situation is going to be different from
Yes.
mine. They can still basically, if they're in Maryland, they can start at the DC office, but their situation might be different. So they might require more things, but she would be the one who would tell them, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If
Exactly.
you have that, go and get it, and then email me when you have it ready. Basically.
That's a good case in point, is
Yeah.
that every situation be different. You said that she told you what you needed. Can you share some of the documents that someone would need as they are looking to get this process done of being a resident in Mexico?
Okay, yeah, I can do that, because when I went to the DC website, they have a PDF document for permanent residency if you want that.
Okay.
Or for temporary residency. I went for temporary, so I have temporary because
And we'll leave those links in the description below, you guys. We'll share those links with you.
Right. So I went for temporary. So because I'm not older, I wanted permanent. I would have loved to have gone straight to
Yes,
permanent.
for Mexico, for permanent, they want you to start with temporary and hold that for 4 years, unless you're already retired. Now, if you're retired, you can go directly into applying for permanent residency.
Right.
But if you're not yet retired, you have to start the process permanent, but it leads to, start the process temporary, but it does lead to a permanent resident.
Right.
So it's win-win.
Right, correct, yes. But when I went, so now at the time that I went, this was in November of last year, 2021. So I went online, I found the DC office, I emailed them. They said you have to make an appointment to come in to bring documents. And they sent me to the website to see what documents I needed.
Okay.
The documents included the online application from the consulate's website. You have to print that off, fill it out, have it completely filled out, and then you would bring that with you. You also need a color photo, which is a passport size.
Yes.
You can get that from like a Walgreens or a CVS or someplace like that. I took 2 of them because I think when Walgreens takes a picture, they give you 2 of them. I took both of them because I didn't want any issues. and you're going to hear this throughout my thing saying, I did this to be on the safe side. So I took 2 pictures. It didn't cost extra. They just gave me 2. So I took both of them. I took my original passport, number 3. I took my original US passport. And also they require copies of the passport picture page. So let me grab my passport real quick. So the United States has the picture page. So they want you to make a copy of this.
Yes.
So when you go there, I bought 2 of these, 2 copies, because I was taking extra copies of everything.
Yes. Just to be safe.
Yep. So they want the original passport and the copies. I think they do take one of your copies. I couldn't remember if they took it. I think they do take a copy of it.
Yes, they will keep one copy.
Right.
Yes.
And then you'll need your either a debit card or credit card to pay for the consulate's application fee. At the time that I went back in December, I had my appointment on December the 7th. The cost was $40.
And that was in the States in December. You were in the States doing the consulate in the States.
Correct. That was at Washington. So it was $44.
Okay.
Now, as of April, it's $48. So
see, just that quick. Wow. $5 more.
Right. And they don't take cash. They don't, not at the DC location. Now, some other consulate in, Owings, like New Orleans or Atlanta or something, they might take cash. The one that I went to did not. So they would not even accept my cash, even though I had it. You had to pay by either credit or debit.
Yeah, and the reason for that is to cut down on fraud. You know, you're not actually paying the person and giving them, this is to cut down on fraud and people take bribes. So they try to keep it professional, and most consulates will not take it in cash.
Right.
But that's a good point.
And the other thing is the proof of solvency. That's like the main thing that people are you're gonna have to gather your records. You're gonna have to do some work at home in your own space before you even get to the consulate. So that proof of solvency is two options. I chose to show them both. Like I said, because I want to be on the safe side. I was trying to get my revenue. I wasn't taking no chances by going in and saying, well, I'm just going to show them this part. And then if I got there and they said, well, we need to see this other part. Because one thing you'll learn in reading about Mexico, the consulates are all different.
Yes.
It's very subjective. Sometimes you'll get up to one agent and they'll want something, and then some other agent the next day might not want the same thing. It's really weird. It's not consistent. Nothing is consistent. So that's why I say, to be on the safe side,
yes,
you try to get as much information as you can yourself and just take it to them. So
Can I add a tip to that?
Mhm.
My landlady here told me when I went for my temporary to renew my residency, she said, Beverly, all my documents, right? She said, do not show them all. I said, what? She said, in Mexico, if you show everything in your hand, they might require something else. So just only give what they ask for.
Right.
Do you have proof of residency? Yes. Don't give your internet and your phone and another bill. Just give one bill. Okay. And then if they ask for something else, you've got it. But don't give everything, because then they might decide, well, we want, and I thought, thank you. She said, no, in Mexico, only just because the more you give, they'll ask for more.
Now that is totally opposite from what I experienced here. Well, at least at the DC location, I guess because
I'm talking in Mexico. Once you're in the Mexico side.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, because I would have shown this is everything. She said, no, only show one thing they ask for. And that way, if they decide something else, you've got it. Instead of coming home, I'll come back. You be prepared, like you said, but only show one thing at a time. Now, so the old saying is, don't show your hand.
Right. And that's good, because all of that side was handled by the advisor.
Yes.
Now see, this is the thing, me coming from the US, if I were doing this myself in Mexico,
yes,
I would have taken my whole documents to the office and would have been flipping through them when they asked, well, do you have this? Yeah, I have that right here. So she handled all of that. And even like I said in the beginning, I was emailing her and she was telling me, this is what you'll need at this point. This is what you're going to need when we have the appointment. She was listing out what I needed to bring, or email her, or a scan, if I needed to scan something and attach it to the email, so she'll have it when she went to the immigration in Mexico to prepare for my appointment. So I didn't have to worry about any of that side.
You didn't have to worry.
Yeah. And that's the whole goal. That's the whole purpose of having an advisor.
Yes.
Yep.
It solves a lot of stress.
Exactly. There you go. Stress and worry and concern. You don't have to worry about all that. You're already going to be in a foreign country.
That's right.
You already don't know most of the language. So might as well let someone handle that part of it, at least the important part.
Important part. If you need to hire a professional, hire a professional. I want to ask you, what type of residency, we already established that you could not get permanent, so you were working to get the temporary. How long did it take for you to get your card? You submitted all these documents, now you're waiting. How long did it take, Shirley?
Okay, so that's kind of, I could answer that question two ways.
Okay.
Because I know people will say, well, from the time that you got your appointment in DC, in the US, how long did it take you to actually get the card in your hand? For me, it took 3 months and 23 days.
Okay.
Now, I will give a warning to everyone listening and watching. Part of that, most of that was my choice, because let me explain. I made the appointment on November 22nd for December the 7th. Already, that's about 2 weeks. I gave myself 2 weeks because I still needed to get some financial documents together. I still needed to print off a lot of things. And I'm going to go back to that in a minute because I didn't get through doing all the list of documents, but I had to print off some more things at home. So I gave myself 2 weeks before the appointment. One thing you do not want to do is get online, make the appointment for 2 days out, and then realize you need to get a document from your employer. The DC office didn't require me to get a verification letter from my employer saying, yes, she works here. I didn't need that. However, at some consulates in the US, they're gonna require that. That's why I say you need to check with each consulate to see what their requirements are. Because if you, like for me, if I live in Maryland, and I would have gone to the DC office and they said, well, you need 17 items. And I'm like, what? And then I go online and someone in Delaware says, well, I only needed to do this. I only needed my pay stub and my bank statements. And I say, well, let me try Delaware. I'm near Delaware. And if Delaware says they accept anyone, if you can come from California and go to Delaware and they only want pay stubs and bank statements, I'm driving to Delaware. Because the thing is, the more documents the consulate requires, the more things that can go wrong.
Oh, that's a good tip.
And DC didn't even do an interview at the office. Now, down in Florida and Miami and some of the consulates down there, they will call you in a back office and ask you questions about your documents. I got none of that. Now, I cannot say if that's standard in DC or if that was just because of the day that I went. There was no one there. So I don't know. I just know it was way easier at DC for me on the day that I went. I didn't have to go through all of that. I don't even know if they even had a back office. The way the office was made, I don't think there was a back office. Because when I walked into the room, it was like a very small closet type room with like two ladies at two windows that kind of look like the bank teller, where they have the plastic in front and you slip the documents under the little plastic plexiglass. They were behind like a plexiglass. So there was no door for me to go around them. So there was no place for them to call you back and interview you. They didn't ask me any questions. I basically just gave them my documents. Now, I don't know if the documents spoke enough to them to say she has everything we need to give her temporary residency. Or just don't interview you at that particular consulate.
Okay, well, let's go back because you said you didn't finish talking about what you need.
Right.
Let's do that for the viewers and continue your list of things that people need to get this done.
Okay, so at the DC consulate, the proof of solvency, you can show investments, IRA, 401k, brokerage firm, account balances. They required at the time that I went in DC, 37,289 or more over the previous 12 months. For me, my IRA is at a brokerage firm. So all I did was print off the quarterly statements for that year. Of course, it's quarterly, so it's every 3 months. I went in December, so there wasn't a December statement. So I
Okay.
went back only 9 months basically. And then I just showed them a copy of the current balance, which was still in line with what the 9 months. I mean, it's an IRA and it's in mutual funds. So of course the balance is going to fluctuate a little bit, but it never went lower than the $37,289 that was required for the DC consulate. So that was one of the options that you showed. The other one, and remember, I showed both. The other one was you can either show your IRA investment type balance, or if you don't have enough for that, you can show your monthly job income after taxes, which means what your net check is. It would have to be $2,237 or more for the month. And
per month.
Per month. And that would have been over the previous 6 months.
Got it.
And in addition to that, you would need the copy of your pay stubs that you received. Either if they were online, you would have to print them out, all of them for the 6 months. I got paid weekly. So obviously 4 weeks in the month, I had to print out 4 to 5 weeks. I had to print out 4 stubs for each month. So I had 4 stubs for each of the 12 months. I gave them 12 months because I was like, like I said, be on the safe side. And then the other thing was you have to show bank statements with that direct deposit amount of $2,237 going into your account for that month. And I highlighted it. I printed my bank statements off. I highlighted where the direct deposit, you could see it going into my account.
You making it easy for them to see it.
I don't want them to have to ask any questions, because if they have to ask questions, that's gonna make it a little harder for them to approve you quickly. I was trying to get in and get out. Okay. I'm trying to get my stamp in my visa. So I was trying to make it so simple for them, and I organized it as easy as I could so they can just grab the bank statement, see what month it is, look down and see the entries from my pay stubs going into my account. So that was the other thing. The other thing, I printed off all my pay stubs. I printed off my checking account bank statements, obviously for the 12 months.
Right.
I highlighted each direct deposit going into the account. I attached the pay stub copies to the bank statements per month. So they had 12 months stacked. So it was organized. I also printed off my IRA quarterly statement. So they had that as well. Like I said, I did both. I did the investment because I knew I had enough in my IRA. And I also did the job monthly qualification. So I wanted them to see, yes, I do earn enough right now while I'm working, because COVID's going on.
Right.
I didn't want any problems with my job. I had already experienced that in 2020 when COVID started. My job had us, like the work that I do, if I don't go in, I don't get paid.
Right.
So my job cut our hours back from full-time to basically less than.
Oh, wow.
And that happened for like a month when COVID started that year.
But Shirley, I think they take that into consideration, because that is the problem now, is that COVID has affected. So they will, I believe they take that into consideration.
Yeah, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know because my thing was, if they're asking for a certain dollar amount, and you print off your check stubs and for 2 or 3 of those months during that 12-month period, you didn't make that amount, they could easily disqualify you from getting the visa.
That's right.
Like, again, it's subjective. If you went to one person at the consulate, they might say, okay, you can justify that your job, cut your salary or cut your hours. They might be lenient. However, another person at the same office might not be. They might say, these are the rules. You don't qualify. I'm sorry. Come back when you have a track record. I didn't want to take that chance. Like I said, I didn't want to take that chance. So that's basically what I did. And in addition, I also, some people on Facebook said they had to take their taxes like for the previous year, like just the federal and the state. I even did that, even though they didn't ask for it. I did it because I was like, well, I'm just gonna have it. Because if I drive to DC and I don't have it and someone asks for it, I'll be like, oh, I gotta make another appointment.
Right. Okay, so let me ask you, why did you choose to do all of these steps before you even moved to Mexico? Why was that important for you?
Well, I kind of like doing things in order. I didn't want to start scheduling plane flights and, you know, Airbnbs and hotels and going there for a week or two, looking around and saying, oh, is this the right place for me to do? And then having, with all of the changes going on with Mexico and their immigration and how they're cutting back on how many days tourists can stay in the country and all the hoopla around that, I didn't want to take that chance because originally, a couple of years ago, my goal was to retire to Panama. So I have some history with some of these Spanish speaking countries. So,
and that's another video. We'll have to have you back about that experience.
Yeah, so I wanted to go there, but their visa requirements changed in the process of me trying to get it. And I got knocked out of the running. So when I started with Mexico, I said, I'm going to do theirs the right way. And the right way was to get the stamp, go to the consulate, get the stamp in your passport, and then fly to Mexico to do the part 2 of the process.
Okay, let's talk about part 2. You've submitted all your documents. You've got your advisor speaking for you. You went into the immigration office in Puerto Vallarta, correct? Did you go 1 day? Did you go 2 days? I'm trying to get a timeline. Once you arrived at immigration, how long that took to go and then get your card?
Okay, so I arrived in Mexico March the 8th. Prior to that, I had been communicating via email with the advisor. So when I had my plane ticket, when I had my Airbnb reserved, I emailed her. This is part of the communication before I left the US. I emailed her to say, this is when I'm going to be in Mexico during these days. This is the Airbnb I'm going to be staying at. This is the address. This is the phone
communication.
Right. This is the airline I'm going to be coming on. This is the day and time I'm going to be coming in. So I asked her.
Okay, that is very important as well for coming in, because when you arrive in Mexico, they want to know how long you're going to be here and what your reason. So that was very good to have all of that, that you can show any immigration agent at any time. Very important.
Right. And I let her know, I said, well, when can we make the appointment? Because I was concerned about my job, because I had to get approval to, you know, take vacation, obviously, because, you know, I work on a team of people. So I can't be gone for like 3 months. So I said, well, okay, I'll do 14 days. So when I contacted her and let her know, I'm going to be here during this period, but can we try to get the immigration appointment?
Ooh, 14 days is cutting it close.
Right. Well, we'll definitely get to that. But I said, well, okay, as soon as I get here, I'm getting here on the 8th. So can we make the appointment for either, that was like a Tuesday. So I said, well, can we make the appointment for like the 9th, 10th, or 11th, like sometime that same week? I wanted to get there, get the appointment quickly, because I didn't know how long they would take in Mexico. I was like, well, once I get the appointment, I'll have like maybe another 10 days for them to give me the actual card, which I have that here. But she made the appointment for the next day. I was flying in on the 8th. She made the appointment for 9:30 in the morning on the 9th. So if I had any kind of problem getting there, I was like, okay, I need to get to immigration on the 9th, so I got to get in the country. So I flew in, no problems. The plane landed. I got there, got to my B&B, and then the appointment was the next morning. That morning, I had a driver take me down to Puerto Vallarta. I arrived at the immigration. I arrived early because I like to be on the safe side. I was there. My appointment was 9:30. I arrived there at, I think I got there like 8:10. I was like, so I actually had to go to a Starbucks, like, you know, because immigration wasn't open. And the way Mexico is, the immigration office, you don't go in. It's not like an MBA. Like, you don't go in the building and sit down and wait. You wait outside because the office is so small that they can't hold people in the lobby. It looks like you're walking up to a bank teller. It looks like that, but it's not big. They might have 6 chairs where they have people sitting, and they're spread out. So they've got the COVID restriction thing going on. So they're not having a bunch of people standing in the lobby.
No.
You wait outside to be called in to the building. So once I got there, she was there. She saw me when I walked up, because obviously she had a picture of my passport, because I had emailed that to her in the communication before I left the US. So she came over, you know, she introduced herself. She was the sweetest lady. She's like, I'm 6 feet tall, and she was shorter than me, and she was just so nice. She was like, welcome to Mexico. And she was so sweet. So she said, well, and she had her folder. Remember I said they have their manila folders for each client. She had a stack of them. So she had me and several other people that she was helping at the same time. So I gave her my passport. I gave her the FMM slip that you get when you fly into Mexico at the immigration office. I gave her that. Mine was for 30 days. I gave her that. I paid her. I gave her the money. Now this was all outside. So
yes.
You know, when you get to, one tip, people, when you get to Mexico, don't be flashing those peso bills. Don't be pulling them out, standing in front of the immigration office in the parking lot, pulling out your wallet and flashing all these bills. People are around you. Be mindful.
That's right.
I had mine kind of folded up. I just slipped it under my passport and handed it to her, you know, conspicuously. So that's what, you know, that, and this is all outside. So she took that information, she put it in her manila folder. She walked up to the immigration door. They opened the door. She went in, because I was the only client, because it was early. The other people hadn't gotten there yet, but she had other folders when she came over to me. So I know I wasn't the only person. But at that time, I was the only one there. So she went over to the door. They let her in. She was in there probably like 4 minutes.
Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to ask you again, because I'm looking at the time, and I want you to tell us about Mexico. Now you're at the office. Can you tell us how many days after your first visit did you actually receive your card?
8 days, 1 week and 1 day.
Woo! Wow, and that's good timing, especially since you were staying for 14 days in Mexico.
Right. My whole goal, the whole goal of the trip was to go there to get this card.
Ooh, you got it, girl. And it
is green and white, people. It is green and white. It looks like a driver's license, but yes, and it's laminated.
Yes.
And, you know, that was the whole goal. So
now, did you go with her every time, or was she making the subsequent trips without you? Was she going on your behalf?
No, we were only there that one day on the 9th for the appointment. I did end up going in, and they did fingerprints. They took more pictures, side, front, back. I did sign some things like an electronic pad. I signed a couple things, a couple of forms she had me sign. And then she said, after we did all of that day on the 9th, she said, well, they're going to let me know when your card is ready, and I'll
notify her, and then she notifies you. Right. Okay, now for the sake of time, because we're 40 minutes in, girl, and I'm not trying, I want to spend some more time. Now you got your car. Well, you're waiting for the car.
I was basically
What
waiting.
was your first impression? You got to tell people this is your first visit to Mexico, right? What was your first impression of Mexico, Shirley?
Now, the Mexicans are very friendly. They are very friendly. They speak to you when you walk by them. You know, they say hola, you know, they smile. They're not, I mean, most of them, I mean, a couple of them, you know, they're like, you know, in their own head, you know, obviously. But for the majority, the locals are very, very friendly. They do speak, they do say hello. You know, so, and I was saying hello because I knew I was in another country. It's like, okay, I need to learn to be friendly. I need to come out of my shell a little bit.
Yes.
So they are very friendly. They are very friendly. The weather was awesome. It was sunny. It was bright sunny, you know, and it was so pretty. They have like palm tree type trees and flowers, and it's very pretty. But then some areas, it's like you're driving in an Uber or you're riding somewhere and you're like, wow, that looks kind of run down. But then you get closer, it might be a taco stand in between a bunch of trees. You're thinking long foliage. It's like they're selling tacos there, and it's a line of people coming out of the little bush, you know, waiting to get waited on. Or it's like a restaurant that has outdoor seating in between all the trees. It's a lot of places like that. But the weather is so nice that you can sit outside. You don't need to be indoors, inside of a building. So
that leads me to my next question. What did you, if you think back on that 14 days, what did you like the most?
I like going to the beach. I like just going to the beach and sitting on the beach and just listening to, looking at the ocean, just looking like all across the water and seeing the little boats go by, watching the people paragliding, and just watching people jog up and down the beach. I don't know how they do it. Just sitting there, hearing the ocean, the waves, just coming up and just going back and coming up and going back. And it just makes you think, Jesus, God created all this. Look out, you're thinking, it just looks like the water just goes off the side of the earth. You know, it's really pretty. It's very
just
relaxing.
Enjoying God's creation.
Exactly. I loved it.
Now, what is there anything you didn't like? Well, look, wait a minute. As we're talking about what you like, girl, what about the food?
Now, I had the whole Mexican experience, but that might be a part 2 to this video.
Well, you got to give us one little snippet about food, girl. Come on now.
Okay, I was near a Mr. Cream pancake and waffle restaurant. I was like 5 minutes walking distance from this restaurant. That place was the bomb. I don't even use that phrase, but I love breakfast foods. I love pancakes. I went there. They were so crowded. Every single 14 days I was there, they were crowded every single day.
Every day.
I have to wait till like 12:30 in the afternoon to go there because they closed at 2, and their waffles were delicious. Delicious. Did I say delicious? Delicious. They were fluffy, and the staff was nice. They were bilingual. They were wonderful. I just loved it. They're very service oriented. You know, they would come around, they would watch you to make sure you didn't need anything. And if they saw your glass was empty, they were right there. You need anything else to drink? You know, it was awesome. I love that restaurant. I loved it.
Wow. Wow. So you found a haven. You were like, waffles in Mexico.
I didn't do the street tacos. So when I go back later this year, I'm going to be doing some street tacos.
Yes. Oh, it's a must. You have to, you'll eat local. It's a different flavor. Let's talk about something maybe you did not like about Mexico or your experience. So one thing maybe that you thought, nah, this is not my favorite.
I think some of the people that come from other countries, because at the bed and breakfast that I was staying at, there were locals who spoke the language, and then there were other US people, and I think some Canadians with the little accent I heard. But the US people were very rude. Like they would be sitting out in the courtyard, and I would come out of my room and say hola, and they just look at me and turn their heads, and I'm like, wow, you're in another country and you still can't speak to people. So that part I didn't like. I'm thinking if
Yeah.
you're coming from another country, at least try to make an attempt to be friendly.
When you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do.
Yeah.
We're in another country. We try to absorb their customs instead of just saying, well, I'm from America. You know, if you I'm from Chicago, everybody doesn't speak. So I had to learn to say good morning and thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
But that's part of the custom. And that's unfortunate. I'm going to ask you about safety. Did you feel safe?
I did. I would leave the bed and breakfast and I would walk to the nearest shopping center. That was about 20 minutes away. So that was like a 40-minute walk back and forth, plus around the mall. I didn't feel anything. I mean, the only non-safe part was some of those circles, like they have those traffic circles. But theirs are worse than in the US because they have cars going from all directions. And I'm like, I don't even know which way to look to so that was the more frightening thing for me, because you could start walking and somebody's making a U-turn and the other cars are going around the circle. I'm like, what kind of circle is this? It's like 5 circles in one.
They call it a round. It's
a roundabout. But
and you have to watch. You really do. They know where they're going, but you got to be sure that
if they're walking, they don't like have like sidewalks through the roundabout. Like they don't have like crosswalks. You should be walking through it or across it. You should be walking around it to follow the but people cut across, and that's the dangerous part. And like me, I'm like cutting across. I'm like, I'm not walking all the way around there. I'm trying to go this way, so that was the more non-safe that I've felt, if that's a word. But I didn't feel unsafe. I wasn't out late. I don't drink, smoke. So
common sense stuff.
Right. I wasn't leaving the hotel or whatever and going out at 8 o'clock at night, so I felt fine. It was fine. I felt fine.
I do want to ask you, coming back, what was that like? Were you required to take any kind of antigen test or?
Yes, you do.
To come back to the United States.
Yeah, to come back into the US from an international destination, you have to take an antigen test 1 day before you return. So if it doesn't matter what time your flight is, as long as it's 24 hours before, you have to take that test. And with most places in Mexico know this. So when you go to take your test while you're in Mexico before you return, make sure you take your passport, because they need your passport number to put on the document to show the airline. If you give the airline a form and it doesn't have your name, your birth date exactly as it appears on your passport, they are not going to take it. They told me that. I said, they give you the place that I went, they give you a printed copy, and they give you an email copy with the little scan, the little QR code thing on it. So you get both. And it was only $30 US, which is 600 pesos thereabouts.
Right.
So, and I got the result. They did the nasal swab. I got the result. They didn't like jab the thing up your nose. They just did the little twist, and then they put it in the little thing and waited 15 minutes, and it was fine. You're in and out. You're in and out.
And out. Excellent. Now listen, girl, first of all, Shirley, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad that you decided to do this before actually moving here, and to start the process while you're still in the United States, because it's so important. And the fact that you hired an advisor. What advice would you have for those who are thinking about getting a residence card in Mexico?
Oh my gosh, do it now. Do it now. Start the process. It's a 2-part process. You need to start it, because Mexico can change the financial requirements is what people worry about. That's what I was worried about. And since December, the rates have already gone up.
Yes.
The investment side of the temporary visa, I was looking it up last night. it went up $8,300.
Wow.
So that's the investment side. So if you have a 401k or IRA between like December of last year and this month, this is April, if it hasn't gone up $8,000, you're already behind the ball.
Wow.
And that's crazy because Mexicans minimum wage went up this year as of January 1st.
Right.
That happen again next January. We don't know. So when
we don't know,
wages go up, the consulates raise their requirements for U.S. citizens to get into Mexico. Even the amount you need for your monthly paycheck, your net, that even went up about $450. So you have to think the consulates in Mexico can raise the requirements at any time.
At any time.
And if you get knocked out, you're just going to be knocked out, and you're not going to be able to fall back on the tourist visa. That's not going to be an option either.
No.
Mexico's systems, their computer systems are getting linked up. They're going to know that you're flying in and out of Mexico on a tourist visa. And one of these days you're going to get stuck in there, or you're going to get rejected for coming in. So you're not going to keep running back and forth. So you need to do it the legal way. Get the visa, but you need to start now because the financial requirements can change. They can increase. They have been increasing.
Yes.
So get ready.
The good thing about it is that on your next visits, you're fine because now you have your passport, which matches a Mexican residence card, which makes it that much easier for you to come in and enjoy traveling into and through Mexico. Right. Because you can show you don't need the FMM anymore. You have your residence card.
Right.
Which trumps
the
FMM.
Correct. And I do want to let people know, because when you're looking online, when you're starting to do your research and all the Facebook groups, a lot of people will say, well, I'm in the US and I just did my consulate visit and I got my visa. They didn't get the actual visa, the green card. They're not talking about them getting the actual green card. They're talking about this kind of stamp.
That's right.
Like a little laminated thing.
And that's only good for 30 days.
Right. Well, this will expire in 6 months. Like, so from the day you go to the consulate in the US, you have 6 months to enter Mexico. Right. Once you step foot off the plane, you have 30 days to start the immigration process. So you
get started.
Once you get your appointment, if your appointment is 32 days out, you're okay, but you can't be going back and forth into Mexico. You got to stay there until
That's right.
That's why I was worried about the 14 days. I wanted to make sure I could get it because I needed to come back to the US. If you have to leave at in the middle of the process, you're going to have to pay more money because you're going to get a travel letter, which the immigration advisor can do for you. It will cost more money. But
it's worth it.
Yes, but I didn't need to do it.
Right. No.
But Mexico would have to approve that. If they don't approve it and you leave, you got to start the whole process at the local embassy again. Pay the money again.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you didn't have to do that. Listen, Shirley, all I can say, we're going to keep this to an hour. So I have to say, first of all, again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second of all, thank you so much for agreeing to allow us to hear your process and to share the tips that are so timely as other people. Would you please do me a favor? And I'm going to get you, I'm asking you to make a promise on camera. If someone asks a question, and I'm asking everyone, if you have a question for Shirley, just say, hey, this question is for Shirley in the comment section. Would you come back and respond to those questions?
Sure.
I'm not telling you forever, but like for the next week, just come back and visit and say, there's some question. Oh, and respond because you are helping so many people. Would you do that?
Thank you. I sure will. I will. I will.
Wow. Well, you know what? Thank you for sharing your experience. You did all of this you got done on your first visit to Mexico. That's awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. And you must
I'm
feel
legal
so
now.
relieved.
I am. I'm legal now, so I don't have to worry going back.
Hello,
Now,
you're
I can
legal
fly.
now.
If I needed to, I can fly back and forth to Mexico all I want to
Yes,
for the next year at least, and then I have to renew that card.
exactly. And you have an advisor
Yeah.
who will help you when
The
you
renewal.
do the process again.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep. Well, we're going to say wherever we are, from my point in Mexico to Shirley in the States and wherever you are, please remember, milers, we always end with this, take it one day at a time. And if you do the process with an advisor, you will keep it simple. That's the rule on Miles and Coffee. One day at a time and keep it simple. Thank you, Shirley.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Okay, now I will stop the recording, but stay here, okay, Shirley?
Okay.